Now, funny story about me, as much as I love scary stories and a good scary movie, I'm arguably the biggest wuss when it comes to these type of things. I have to edit this video with my lights on, and I have to be careful before watching a scary movie because I know I'm gonna struggle to sleep at night. And I know a lot of you are gonna make fun of me and call me a coward and a scaredy cat. However, if you experience half of the things I have, I guarantee nobody would judge me. When I was about 17 or so, I would experience sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is by far the scariest thing to happen to me because it just feels like someone or something is holding you down. If you've had it before, you know what I'm talking about. And although it never happened to me, I hear a lot of stories about people seeing shadowy figures. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How is sleep paralysis a paranormal experience? It's pretty common. Well, I want to say for two occasions, it wasn't your normal sleep paralysis because when I got paralyzed and couldn't move, even though I knew I was wide awake, I heard chanting in my ear of a language I didn't recognize. If it even was a language. One sounded like a normal man whispering really fast in my ear. That's the best way I could recreate it. And the other sounded more demonic. It sounded like some satanic ritual shit. Anyways, once I moved into our new house, which is the house I'm living in currently, that's when things really started to ramp up. So many things have happened to me in this house that I decided to spread holy water around my room. Out of nowhere, I started seeing things at night. I can vividly remember the first thing I saw that freaked me out. It was when I randomly woke up around 2 a.m. or so and swear on my life that I saw a middle-aged woman in a funeral type outfit just float and vanish into my wall. She had one of those top hats and she was wearing all white. After this experience, I began to see so many things that I couldn't keep track of, but in one instance, I don't know what got into me, but I stood on my bed and ripped my Raiders blanket off my wall because something about it freaked me out, and I proceeded to stand there confused. I remember thinking, why the fuck did I just do that? Nighttime became so hard for me around this time period that I sometimes had to sleep in a call with a friend to even be able to sleep comfortably. However, about 1 year ago when I slept in a call with a friend, the next morning she told me something that still bothers me to this day. What my friend told me that she heard was the voice of a woman who sounded like she was at the side of my bed calling my name 3 times, followed up by loud static. And this loud noise, she made clear that it was really loud to the point where she had to take off her headphones. Now, I know a lot of you are probably gonna think, well, it's probably your friend just messing with you, but if you knew this friend, you would know they are not the type of person to mess with me, especially when I told them what I was going through with the paranormal shit and how scared I was. I can bet on my life that she was telling the truth. And what makes it even more scary is, as I told you earlier, how I saw the middle-aged woman, you know, float in my room and then vanish. It's just a coincidence that the voice she heard was that of a woman. The next video I'm going to show you is exactly why I decided to spread holy water around my room. In this next video I'm about to show you is me recording my dog growling at the corner of my room, literally growling at nothing. And I've shown this to people and they think my dog's sniffs are some sort of tapping sound and that's why he growled. But no, my dog has like a pre-bark routine where before he barks he like sniffles a couple times, so that's the, I guess, tapping sound you hear. Because I'm telling you, the house was quiet. I wanted to clear that up. Anyways, here's the video.
Oh, hell no.
Now, what really sent chills down my spine is when my dog flinched. At the time of recording, I felt a chill go through my body. I really can't think of anything that would make my dog act like this, considering my house was, again, really quiet at the time. One night, I remember seeing 2 kids hang off the edge of my bed. One time, for some reason, I felt like there were snakes under my bed. And then there's this image I got which shows handprints on the window of my downstairs living room. Just about a couple weeks ago, I had another unexplainable experience. So one day, me and my dog are upstairs, and keep in mind, my sister's room is upstairs and mine is downstairs. Her room is directly above mine. And she comes out of her room and was like, wait, you're not downstairs with my dog? And I said, no, why? And she said she heard scratching coming from my room and thought it was my dog. Now that freaked me out, and I had another restless night. I mean, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I woke up with identical identical scratch marks on both my shoulders. I immediately searched online to see what would cause this, but all I could see were answers that didn't add up. For example, a lot of people say you scratch yourself in your sleep, but A, the scratches didn't hurt, and B, what are the chances I scratched the exact same marks on both my shoulders? There were a lot of paranormal theories. For example, some say it's a demon trying to contact you in your sleep because that's when you're most vulnerable. Maybe there are simple solutions and answers to these stories that I'm just not seeing, but I would really like to believe there are, because I've become so paranoid at times that I have to turn on the flashlight on my phone because it just feels like something is watching me.
Contact with 32-year-old Chelsea Grimm days before her car was found.
Search for missing American teen Natalie Holloway.
The disappearance and death of Washington intern Chandra Levy.
And while Gabby Petito's disappearance,
police are searching for an 18-year-old girl who was abducted on Saturday.
We did a search warrant house, get us shrine for the Chelsea branch.
Now, scary is subjective, and as a guy, it's natural that being kidnapped isn't really a big fear for us. However, I can only imagine what women go through and how extra careful they have to be. I mean, the average height for a woman in America is like 5'4". If I was a female that size, I don't think I'd even feel comfortable walking outside at night by myself, which is crazy to think about considering I walk my dog every night without a second thought. These next videos I'm going to show you are highly disturbing, so please, I suggest you skip ahead if you're easily triggered. Fair warning.
Stop! Stop! They're abducting her. Call 911. Call 911. I'm filming! I'm filming! I'm filming! What are you doing? Why are you doing this? I'm trying.
I've never been more infuriated watching a video. I mean, maybe I'm too quick to judge, but if I heard someone screaming like that, I'm not just gonna stand there and film. His wife asked him to call the police and he says,
Filming! I'm filming! I'm filming!
She also tells him to get the license plate, but he just stands there. He stands in the exact same spot and doesn't get the license plate. It's really hard to watch. Those were not normal screams, and it's saddening to hear her screams getting muffled as if they put something over her mouth. And at that moment, I couldn't imagine how helpless she probably felt. The next clip is equally disturbing. It's a similar situation where a girl is heard screaming for help, and you can hear a guy say, "I'm sorry," as if he's trying to act like his girlfriend is just acting crazy or something. Take a look. I mean, imagine screaming for your life, meanwhile watching people stand on their porches watching you get kidnapped. From what I could find, neither of these women were identified or found, which goes to show how easy and frequent this can be, where this is taking place out in the open in front of multiple people. The last video really shows how fast your life can flash before your eyes, as the woman and her daughter were entering their apartment when all of a sudden they get ambushed. Disturbingly, the man is seen coming out of the apartment with his shirt off. However, he was arrested and the mom said her and her kid are fine. These videos show how scary the world can be for some women, as in the blink of an eye, their freedom can be snatched away from them and never seen again. They could have the same fate as the first two women who were never found or identified. You can't help but sympathize for them, because what's a normal, relaxed, late night stroll for us can be a frightful nightmare for them. Now this next story takes place in June 2014. 28-year-old Lars Matank was a German traveler visiting Bulgaria. He was on holiday with his friends on a resort. However, a week into the vacation, while drinking with his friends at the bar, Lars got into a fight with rival football fans, or since the majority of my viewer base is American, I'll say soccer. So yeah, sports and trash talk that then results in a bar fight. After the fight, Lars stormed out of the bar alone to cool off, but he wasn't seen for the rest of the night. But the next morning, Lars surprised his friends and showed up to their resort room, and he told them that he had been beaten all night by the 4 men from the bar. So his friends decided to take Lars to a doctor because they were supposed to fly home soon and wanted to check if he was okay. The doctor concluded that Lars had a cracked jaw and ruptured eardrum, so he could not fly home, obviously, because the air pressure from the plane could damage his already ruptured ear. So his friends flew home without him. A lot of people criticized Lars' friends for leaving him in the country by himself, but Lars was literally supposed to get on a plane the next day, so he reassured them that he was gonna be okay. Anyways, his friends flew home without him while he rested in a hotel for a few more days, but it was at this hotel where Lars began to have weird behavior. He began acting paranoid that the 4 men from the bar were out to kill him. He hid in an elevator, also called his mother, and in a quiet tone told her that there were some men following him and targeting him, and that she needed to go and cancel all of his credit cards. But he makes it through the night and everything seems fine. The next day he goes to the airport to catch a flight back home and everything seems fine. He checks in with the airport doctor to make sure everything's okay, but while the doctor was examining him, a construction worker comes in the room and Lars starts to freak out. He frantically gets up and runs out of the airport, leaving his luggage and belongings behind, and that is where this disturbing footage comes in. Take a look. This was the last time Lars was ever seen. As you can see, everything is fine and seems normal. Then he storms out as if someone is chasing him, but he doesn't look back. Also, when he exits the airport, he stops as if he doesn't know where he's even going. He scales a really tall fence and then he runs into the woods and was never seen again. Disappearances like this freak me out because how can someone just disappear and never be found? The most logical answer as to why Lars did this was maybe he suffered some sort of brain damage from the fight at the bar, or maybe the medication he was given for his injuries made him act this way, but to me it was obvious psychosis. However, to just run into the woods and never be seen again, his body was never found. I mean, to tell your mom to cancel your credit cards and then freak out when a construction worker comes into the room with you, it just doesn't really make sense to me. But again, it probably just was psychosis and he had something wrong with him from the fight at the bar. But I mean, the way he's running and just runs into the woods never to be seen again, it just makes you wonder, where did he go? I mean, go to your local Walmart and look at the missing persons wall. It truly makes you see how dark this world can be and how truly mysterious it is. On the morning of October 8th, the Jameson family traveled 30 miles from their home to an area in OKC in hopes of buying a 40-acre plot of land. They drove their white pickup truck up an isolated mountain but never returned. On October 16th, which is my birthday, how about that, the family's white pickup truck was found and inside was their wallets, IDs, cell phones, a GPS, around $32,000 in cash, and even their dog who was on the edge of death because of starvation. It wasn't until 4 years later when they found the family's skeletal remains and they were set exactly right next to each other, laying down side by side. The remains were in such a bad state that an autopsy couldn't determine their cause of death. This next footage comes close to being as freaky as the Elisa Lam elevator footage, at least for me. It's bad quality, but many investigators claim as if they're in a trance-like state. Take a look. The mom and dad were seen loading up their pickup truck for the trip, but many investigators say they don't speak to each other once. Also, they would load things on the truck, then unload it back to the house, and then load it back on the truck. They went from the truck to their house about 30 times without speaking to each other. Police found no drugs in the home, and months prior to their disappearance, the Jamison family became very paranoid and told some of their friends and family that their house was haunted and claimed that they have seen spirits. This photo of their daughter was taken in the mountains by the dad's phone found in the truck, probably the last picture of the Jamison family. Some say it isn't even her dad taking the picture, as the kid looks distressed. There are many theories surrounding this case, from abduction, occult sacrifice, them getting lost, to a murder-suicide. My personal questions for this case are, why were they going hiking without their phone or GPS and leaving their dog and $32,000 in cash in their truck? Also, the eerie footage of them looking possessed and just walking by each other, not communicating, acting like zombies, along with them claiming they've seen spirits in their house, and also add the fact that it took 4 years for someone to find their remains when it was only 3 miles away from their pickup truck, and to find their remains laying down side by side as if it's like some ritual, just makes me ponder what possibly could have happened to the Jamison family, and was it something sinister? Anneliese Michel was born on September 21st, 1952 in West Germany. In 1968, when Anneliese was 16 years old, she had her first incident where in the middle of class she completely blacked out and had a seizure. Some sources say she had convulsions, whereas others said she looked dazed. In 1969, Anneliese had another seizure in bed. This time she said she couldn't move or breathe, as if something was holding her down and choking her. After this, Anneliese's family began to notice change in her behavior. She got angry easily, could hear voices telling her that she's going to hell, and Anneliese said she could see demonic faces everywhere. Now being convinced that she was being possessed, Anneliese's family were finally able to locate a priest that was willing to do the exorcism on Anneliese. And at this point, her symptoms got so bad that when she had these episodes, it really did look like she was getting possessed. She would rip off her clothes, eat spiders, crawl under tables, and bark like a dog. She bit the head off a dead bird, and at one point tried to lick her own pee off the floor. She would also squat 400 times a day. She would slam down on her knees in a praying position over and over again, to the point where she broke both her knees and damaged her tendons. She would also speak Latin. Anneliese would go through 67 exorcisms that lasted about 4 hours each, and each time was mentally brutal to Anneliese, as she had to be tied down. After these exorcisms, the priest concluded that she had 6 demons inside of her: Cain from Cain and Abel, Judas, Hitler, Nero, a local priest named Fleischmann, and even Lucifer himself. Here are some audio recordings from the actual exorcisms, and it showcases what each demon sounded like. Take a listen.
Ja, ich will auch für die anderen leiden, damit die nicht in die Hölle kommen und so. Aber dass das dann so schlimm ist und so grausam, da will man überhaupt nicht mehr, da will mein Kind. Ich hab ein Moderschlag. Die Ruhe gibt's nur da oben.
Ruhe gibt's nur dort, wo die Liebe ist.
Ja, bei uns gibt's nur, ja, no.
Nur Hass.
Ja.
Anneliese was becoming malnourished as she wasn't eating properly, but still gave consent to these exorcisms as she believed she was atoning for other sins. On June 30th, 1976, Anneliese went through her last exorcism. For 10 months, she went through 67 total exorcisms. She weighed only 68 pounds, her knees were broken, she was covered in bruises and couldn't even walk. Not much is known about what went down for the last exorcism, but the next morning, Anneliese passed away from dehydration and malnutrition. The priest who performed these exorcisms and Anneliese's parents were found guilty of manslaughter and were sentenced to 6 months in jail, but those sentences were suspended and no jail time was served. Now, if I'm being honest with you guys, up until now, I've explained this case in a very biased manner to try to scare you guys. But to be respectful to Anneliese and her death, let's look at it from a logical side. First, let's look at her mom. Her mom was extremely religious. She was a devout Catholic and forced her beliefs on her daughters. One practice involved forcing her children to sleep on hardwooden floors in the middle of winter without a blanket, because it was her belief that people couldn't atone for their sins and others were required to suffer and make sacrifices on their behalf to save them. This could explain why Anneliese thought she needed to go go through these exorcisms to atone for other sins. Also, for her second seizure, she was wide awake, which terrified Annalise, so she was taken to a neurologist and was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, a disorder that causes seizures, loss of memory, and visual and audible hallucinations. Now, depending on who you ask, the meds did or did not have an effect. Some people who believe in the sinister side of the story say the meds didn't help at all, whereas people who look at it as torture and she was tortured by the priest and her family, that the meds had to do something considering she graduated high school, got into college, and was able to maintain her relationships. However, she got off her meds because she was fully convinced that it was something sinister and she was getting possessed. So going through these medieval-like trials with her mother, attending mass twice a week, also studying Roman and Latin languages so she can read old Christian texts, which the movie, if you watch it, they made it seem like she just magically knew how to speak languages when she became possessed, but she did in fact study these languages. So what do you guys think? Is this the effect of Annalise soaking up all of her mother's beliefs while having temporal lobe epilepsy, which causes seizures and hallucinations? And should the parents have been accountable for her death, or was this something more sinister? I'll leave that for you guys to decide, but either way, it's a really, really sad case.